John Harwood, former White House correspondent for CNN, worked for the New York Times, NBC, and so on, tweets out the following. Tom Homan is like an early 20th century Southern sheriff who would send a mob to find a black kid who had allegedly looked the wrong way at a white woman. The mob would bring back a kid who kind of sort of fit the description, and the Homan character would say, "String him up," with an exclamation point. That is where he went with Tom Homan asking, where was Laken Riley's due process, Walter? Thoughts on that?
Well, I'm an actual novelist, unlike Harwood, so I'll give my competing image of Tom Homan. He's like a bouncer in a very big nightclub and finds some guys who've been harassing women in the women's bathroom and kicks them out the back door. And when they want to come back in the front door, doesn't allow it. That is just a pure cheap shot on Harwood's part to act as though this is racist, that it harks back to the Southern past and so on. Doesn't apply in any respect. It's a bad image, a bad metaphor, and it's prejudicial on its face. He can say it, but it doesn't mean much.
Mm-hmm. But this is a window into how a lot of these leftists view the issue of deportations and of closing the border, Matt.
I mean, it's ridiculous. First of all, how many times are these people going to invoke Jim Crow? It's everything is either Jim Crow or Hitler, basically. Mm-hmm. Since Trump arrived on the political scene. The other thing I'll say is, I was a foreigner for 12 years. I lived in the former Soviet Union. I lived in a number of different countries, principally Russia, but also Uzbekistan, Mongolia, some other places. And you never have a sense that you have rights to a place as a foreigner. You always think of yourself as a guest. You always want to be on your best behavior, and you always want to respect the culture, to try to learn the language, do all those things. And the idea that you can be thrown out of the country at any moment is present in your mind at all times. I mean, I was thrown out of Uzbekistan, and they had every right to.
What'd you do?
I was there on the wrong kind of visa, and I was actually playing for an Uzbek baseball team at the time, and they threw me out after practice. But look, the idea that all these people, as much as of a civil libertarian as I am, the idea that foreigners or the people who are here illegally have the same rights as Americans, this isn't true. They may have, by law, they may have the same speech rights once they get here, but the notion that the president doesn't have the ability to throw these people out of the country doesn't hold up, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. It's absurd. And here's the interesting thing about this. Americans are actually really kind and nurturing and welcoming, and they're caretakers. I think they have a natural tendency to be caretakers. And so that whole give us you're tired, you're poor, and all that works on the Statue of Liberty. It worked on us for hundreds of years. And it worked on us all the way up to about 4 years ago when Joe Biden took it to a place no one had ever taken it to before and just opened the borders. I mean, it was just absolutely dangerous what he did. It was absolutely, it was treasonous. That's how it feels, truly. I don't throw that term around loosely, but the jeopardy that he put us all in and the lives that have been cost from that decision, there's just no question he should be held accountable in any event. And so the American public have had it. They've had it with this debate. The Democrats have lost it. It's one of the reasons why their party is in the toilet right now on its approval ratings. So the American public is behind Trump on this issue above all others. Well, this and the trans issue. They're really behind Trump. And this is why I asked my team to pull this clip. Now, hold on. I'm going to set this up. I saw a really interesting tweet thread, post thread on X a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And forgive me, I don't remember who started it, but the guy was saying, post here pictures or clips of people who are portrayed as villains in movies who you now no longer think are. right? With like just the dramatic changes that have happened in our country over the past 10 to 20 plus years. Who do you now see who is depicted so poorly in film as not a villain who you were told was? And this was one that I was like, oh my God, this is so true. It's not directly related to immigration, but you'll get it. It's this guy.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth! Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom, and my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
That's right. And I don't really care if you have to give a few code reds to do it, Tom Homan, Colonel Jessup. I mean, I kind of think, Walter, we're all Colonel Jessup now, or at least in the mood for a Colonel Jessup.
Listen, I grew up with Dirty Harry and Charles Bronson movies. We haven't even gotten close to that level yet. You know, in the early and mid 70s, after the chaos of the 60s and the early 70s, we had a series of heroes. Buford Pusser, the Southern sheriff, speaking of Southern sheriffs, walking tall, who went around with a baseball bat, getting rid of all the scumbags in his small town. We had a decade of vigilante movies where people practically stood up and cheered. And in one of those Dirty Harry's movies, it's interesting. There was a villain who ends up kidnapping school children who is let off earlier in the movie by a judge on a technicality, even though they have him, and then does even worse things. So America's in that mood. And cultural cycles, you know, as Andrew Breitbart said, politics is downstream of culture, and I think in a lot of cases that's true. In terms of cultural cycles, we're in a Tom Homan cycle, not a, you know, Tom Cruise upright Boy Scout cycle.
No, Lieutenant Weinberg, your time is up. We are over the soft leadership stuffed into a military outfit without ever having done a 3-mile run. We need the Jessups of the world right now, Matt. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with the Tren de Aragua gang deportations. I certainly hope the Trump administration wins this. But let's just say they get their hands slapped by some court. It doesn't matter. It's all worth it. We're setting up the protocols. Like, how far can Trump push it to get rid of these people that Joe Biden let in? And it's the same thing as like the signal gate that we kicked the show off with. For the Democrats who said nothing about the floodgates being opened, I have almost no tolerance for their objections in how we now get rid of these people. You know, you've lost your moral standing to complain about any of it. You caused this entire problem, which Trump is now trying to fix and the country wants desperately to fix.
Yeah, and just to go back to, you're absolutely right, and to go back to the John Harwood thing, the reason that comparison is so obscene is because, you know, the young black men who were rounded up during the Jim Crow period, they were citizens. They had rights that were ignored and abused during that time. They should have shared full equal rights because they were Americans just like us. It's an apples to oranges thing to compare these two situations. To claim that these suspected gang members are like abused American citizens just isn't true. And you're right, they've lost all standing to complain about this like they have on speech issues.
You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you. And you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. You can do the whole thing. You can just do a part of the thing if you want to hedge a little. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.